Welcome everybody to the Naracoorte Lucindale Council meeting, 24th of October. I'd like to welcome Anne Bordersea and Roger Babulka from Stand Like Stone. Welcome, and we'll hear from them very shortly. Councillor Dennis will be half an hour late. He's an apology, late, and Deputy Mayor Crosling is coming through the door shortly. The opening prayer. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits or pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Furthermore, in this chamber, we respect our differences and opinions as we work towards a common goal. This may be achieved with a robust and fair debate at times, and arriving at the end of the meeting, we will be as one with the decisions which have been made. Can I remind you, please, to turn your telephones off? Acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge and respect the traditional owners of the ancestral lands of the Limestone Coast. We acknowledge elders past and present, and we respect the deep feelings of attachment and relationship of Aboriginal peoples to country. At this moment, I'd just like to ask Councillor Grundy to stand and commemorate Councillor Jim Young.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Yes, it's with regret that I confirm the news of the passing away of Jim Young, who was a previous Lucindale councillor. Affectionately known by all as Jimmy, he was a highly respected member of the Lucindale community who was always very enthusiastic and engaging with whoever he was with, and was a bloke who loved the cut and thrust of business and hated a whiskey or a red. Jimmy was from a property, Congeith, located near Castle Douglas in southwest Scotland. As a young man, his rite of passage was to come to Australia, where he worked for the Baker family south of Callendale in the mid-1960s, where he became close friends with Dean and Dale. He became so fond of Lucindale district and community, he decided to immigrate and relocate to Lucindale permanently. Jimmy, along with his wife Chris from Naracoorte, began their family and commenced amassing a large farming property in the Spence Callendale districts, where they ran a large cattle and sheep operation, also known as Congeith. Jimmy was part of a small group who were the first to import Simmental cattle into Australia, which contributed to Congeith Simmental stud, which was very successful. He also contributed to the community, being involved in the Farmers Federation, was on the Pastoral Committee at the Royal Adelaide Show, and was not least a Lucindale councillor in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Councillor Young contributed to his role with clear thinking, common sense and logic. While his death is a shock, the great thing about Jimmy is he led a rich and useful life and was never going to die wondering. We pay our respects to Jim Young and pass on our condolences to the Young family.
Thank you very much, Councillor Grundy. I'm sure all of us who knew Jimmy, he was a fun guy to be around and a great contributor. Thank you very much. I'll ask if there's any elected members' declarations. Being none. No one from the public today, unfortunately. And I do have, I'd like to introduce Roger Babulka, CEO of Stand Like Stone, and give us an update. The floor is yours, Roger.
Thank you.
You can be anywhere you like on this floor, and if you're in the middle, you may have to dance.
Mayor Ross, thank you for the opportunity for being here today, myself and obviously one of our directors. We thought an opportunity time to just give you a quick summary of what the foundation is all about, a bit of the history, and more importantly, what we do within the community and indeed the Naracoorte Lucindale community. I've got 5 minutes, so this will be a Reader's Digest version of the presentation, so bear with me. Stand Like Stone Foundation, established back in about 2004-2005 by some very forward-thinking community individuals who saw not only the the need, but also the benefit of having a community foundation. So what is a community foundation? A foundation which is for a specific community. In this case, Stanwell Stone is for the Limestone Coast. And community foundations are for a specific geographical location, such as the Limestone Coast, but what we do is all within this region as well. So we support the local community. One of 5 community foundations in South Australia, one of about 52, I think, Australia-wide. So there's not a lot of us, but we're slowly sort of developing our resources to do lots and lots within the region. We have a board of directors who come from across this region. Our current chair is Rob Mock, who's a Tatiara community member. We have 3 directors who are Narrabri Lucindale. Obviously Anne, Sally Close, you would know, and our most recent addition, whose photo is not there unfortunately, Georgie McKay, who was the previous exec officer for probably about 7 or 8 years, from about 2012 to 2020. She's back on board, which is fantastic. It's a great resource for us. So we're managed by local people for the local community. Next slide. What we do, and I guess you probably all know or have heard of the foundation, I hope. I'd like to think you have in some form. We have what we call a sustainable business model. So if, for instance, Councillor Turner decides to donate $100 to the foundation, we take that $100 and we'll take more, Darren, and we invest that money. So we don't actually spend that $100. That's invested in perpetuity. We currently have in fact, the last financial year just gone, June 23, we just clicked over 5 million, so we've got $5.3 million invested funds. All those funds have come from the local community, individuals, corporates, other organisations donated since 2004. So those funds are locked away forever and a day. It's the return on the investment that we get each year, which allows us to do the things that we've got up on the slide. Those funds were, up until recent years, managed internally by the directors. They saw it was appropriate because we were getting to such a level that those funds were managed externally. So we have 2 investment firms that manage those funds on our behalf, JB Weir and Warakiri, and they do a fantastic job. I think moving that off-site for management, I think is probably one of the better things the foundation has done in recent years. So what do we do with those funds? We get around between, depending on the year, because our return on investment is subject to the market. As you would imagine, that goes up and down. Anywhere between the low 200s to the high 300s per year is what we are able to give out to the community. We have a target, which is to get to a point where we can give out $500,000 a year to the community. That's going to take a bit of work and effort, but that's our goal. This is a bit of a summary of the 21-22 period. I can't give you the 22-23 periods. We haven't released those yet. Can we just go back to your thinking? These are the sort of things we do on a regular basis. We have our scholarships, which we give out each year. For that year, I think I need to put my sheet down so I can see that. I think 34 scholarships. Now, scholarships are one of the big things we do on a regular basis. The scholarships are allowed to any person who has either a current resident or a resident of the Limestone Coast or has a connection to the Limestone Coast. And the scholarships are there for any stage of their someone's education, from basic from primary school through to tertiary education, and including things such as traineeships and apprenticeships. So the student or a person is looking to this for some support to help them achieve their education. The scholarships are there. In fact, we've just opened the round for this year, which is for the following year's education. So if you know of any worthy people out there who could do with some support to secure some, I need to smile. Sorry, Chris. Chris and I go back a long time ago. So scholarships are there for to help people do their education, and it can be for fees, it can be from equipment that's required, or indeed it can be for accommodation costs if someone has to go to Adelaide and Melbourne for education. We have our community grants. We do sort of 50,000 to 75,000 depending on the year. We have our back to school vouchers. Any teachers here in the room? No? Each year we get access to some funds through the FRRR, Foundation for Rural Regional Renewal, and we secured for the 21-22 period $950 vouchers, which goes to schools, and the schools then distribute to those in need within those schools. The last one actually we did 1,000 vouchers. We could easily do 2,000, because there is demand there. And if that money is spent, given to the families to pay for school equipment or shoes or uniforms, etc. We support groups who are looking to raise funds. We help the Penola community to raise some funds for a sculpture in the new town square. There was spent $36,500. Because we're a registered charity, we can help with donations that get tax deductible. So we can encourage those sort of things to happen. So if you've got a community who's looking to raise some funds, we might be able to help them do that. Looking at the time, I'll go to the next slide. More relevant to for the Narrabri Listener Council. I have given you the 22-23 figures here. We've put into the committee for the last financial year just under $19,000, $10,000 to the Rapid Relief Team, which was to purchase a mobile call room to be used across this region in the event of a disaster, fire, floods, etc. So that will be rolling out this season across the region. Small grant, so it's a small grant. The FRRR, the back to school program, we put 124 vouchers across the schools in the Narrabri Listener area to $6,200. And we supported 3 students to $2,500 for a scholarship for last financial year. So we do, and this is sort of a fairly regular sort of figure. Some of the, we quite often will do a lot of grants for some of the community groups, we ventures, etc. Rotary come to us for some support, we're providing some funds through that process. So the 18,700, not too bad. I think the last couple of years it's been around that mark each year that we supported the local community. And I said for the last year, 230 across the region, and you know, that's what we do. That's our role, is to provide support into the community for those in need. We are supported with sponsorship across the region. In fact, our latest sponsor is one of your businesses, the Australian Trans-Australian Freight, Damien Thornhill, sorry, had a senior moment there. Damien's come on board for the next few years to support us with things, because, as I said earlier on, we lock our funds away. We don't spend the donation you provide us, but we have to go looking elsewhere for support to pay for the bills, pay for wages. We've got a small team, myself, 2 other staff, and we're all part-timers. So support from councillors. I know we weren't successful for this financial year. We certainly hope that you can either reconsider, I'll be more than happy, or at least for next year when you go into those rounds of reviewing supporting the community, you look to maybe come and provide us with a little bit of support, which we'd be gratefully accepted. I think I'll take my 5 minutes. Do we have any questions? Don't be shy.
Roger, my elected members are very guarded when it comes to questions. They always have been. I don't know too many people who have been questioned from the floor, but thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll receive something in the mail before the next budget round, which starts very soon.
Thanks for the opportunity, much appreciated. And if anyone has any questions, like to talk to us through things in the committee, please let us know. I'd like to have a chat to anyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you.
I have an apology that I neglected to inform you all of our virtual world that we live in, and please note that the meeting is being live streamed, and there's no one left in the gallery now, so I won't let that happen again. As we move on, we'll be looking for a confirmation of item 6, confirmation of minutes. Would someone like to move that the minutes of the 26th of September are taken as read? Councillor Maguire and Councillor Ireland. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. No matters on the table, Mr. Smart. The Mayor's report. I move that the report be accepted. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Goodman. All those in favour? Carried. I'll take questions if there were any. We didn't receive any elected members' reports. My preference is absolutely to have elected members do a written report.
Mr Mayor, I apologise.
Townwood.
I do apologise that I missed the cut-off date to send something in, but I just wanted to say that I did attend the Haynes shearing system a couple of weeks ago, and I just thought that given that past council had donated funds to, or granted funds to the development of that system, that it was appropriate to report back on that. And just what a fantastic system that Glenn Haynes has developed, along with his Shannon Warnest and Paulie Oster and a number of others. Plus, they've gone through shed hands to develop a system that not only looks after the shearers, but also is great for animal husbandry. So, you know, the fact that we've got world-class shearers, or Shannon and another one of them world champions. Glenn himself is also a gun shearer, and they've shorn all over the world around Australia, and combined the knowledge that they've got from that into the shearing system, and the benefits, not just the local shearers, but the whole shearing community, is immeasurable. And when you consider that these gun shearers are doing, you know, 300 odd sheep a day, and Big Weather's 130 kilos, that's about 126 tonne that they're pulling out of the pens. So to be able to have it there where they're not having to use their bodies too much to do what they're doing and release them easily has certainly got a beneficial impact for those guys. And Glenn had said that the shearers that have used it, from beginners right through to the experienced guys, are picking up about 10 to 15% speed on their numbers they're putting out. So that's a considerable benefit, not just to the shearers but also to the farmers as they're doing it. And it's a modular system that can be easily established, put in, and then stuck away in a corner. So you don't have to have a shearing shed as the old school. But this will benefit. But it was a great system, well put out, and a great day. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Downwood. Mr. Smart.
Thank you for that. A few items in my report. Limestone Coast LGA Charter Review. LCLGA is required as a subsidiary of 7 councils to have a charter or a constitution to operate on. This review's been a while coming with the change of officers within that organisation. As presented to you, I've had a good read. Other councils have approved, I think, other than Model Range. I don't see any real issue or with the charter as written. There's a couple of minor edits, but I've covered that in my recommendations. Happy to take questions. Or recommendation is that we support the endorsement of, or the approval of the charter. And we go do them as we go.
Sure. Yes. Okay, so would somebody like to move that the council advise the Limestone Coast LGA that it has considered and approves the draft charter, subject to some minor grammatical and spelling amendments? Councillor Turner, Councillor Crosling. Any discussion? All those in favour? Carried, thank you.
Second item, again, Limestone Coast LGA, the Sports Academy and the sporting ecosystem, which was the language used, which I think confused quite a few locals as to what that really meant. So as per the attached correspondence from LCLGA, outlines perhaps some future thoughts of where the sporting academy should go. It's been a pretty successful program and the only one in the state. So from that perspective, we are collectively leading the way and giving young athletes an opportunity to, I guess, better prepare themselves if they go to higher levels. So there is a view, as has happened with many other programs that have started within the Limestone Coast LGA, that eventually those programs evolve away from the LCLGA. Doesn't mean we still can't support them as a collective group of councils, but sometimes they're better off finding a different home. And sometimes that's, probably in this instance, they're looking to be more self-sustainable rather than rely on state government and local government funding. So probably better placed within a own incorporated body, perhaps have tax deductibility status, etc., to then attract the corporate sponsorship and different arrangements. So At this stage, LCLGA has a motion on its books for officers within that organisation to bring information back to the board, which will ultimately come back through councils, on how they would move that organisation into a different form. So no decisions required, but happy to take questions on it as well. From a funding perspective, I've provided information there what council puts into the return, which is a pretty good deal for the 7 councils. We put in very little for nearly 300,000 input from Department of Sport and Rec.
Councillor Grundy.
Well, thank you, Mayor Ross. Look, I'd like to agree with CEO Smart's sentiment, and that is along the lines of, while this is all very noble, I'd really question whether it's a core responsibility of a local council, and I hope they're preparing the ground to maybe in some tangible way move it on to federal funding or something like that.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy, and we might just agree to disagree once more, but that happens occasionally. Traditionally, local government had various responsibilities, but under the Act, whether we agree with it or not, our responsibilities have really broadened over time. Doesn't mean we have to do them all, but whereas LCLGA is, I guess, placed, they're able to take on some regional projects, but always with the intent to move them on. So that definitely is the intent of the association. So, firearms policy, this is more of an administrative part of the report. So all human resource policies and risk policies don't need to be endorsed by councils. Historically, some have been. So as we move through reviewing various policies, so it's my responsibility to manage the people side of the organisation. So we're still having a firearms policy, but it'll be an internal facing policy, not a public policy, because council has endorsed one in the past. It's an administrative action that I'm asking to revoke the policy. Happy to take questions or comments on that.
Just if I might just go back to the previous LGA and the sports one.
Yep.
They've just engaged Adrian Marwood. He's been engaged, hasn't he, to pretty much to look into. If you could expand on that, Mr. Smart.
Adrian was appointed as the Technical Platoon Sports Academy Coordinator to run the academy, but also with a view to looking to reposition that academy in another form, another place. So,
yeah, I'd like to support the project if I can just speak for it. Although my son actually didn't end up he was invited. Just watching where the academy started off to where it is now, and what they're providing for the children. We've got to remember, country kids are always at a fairly big disadvantage. So quite often you might have the talent in the country, but unless you're willing to travel every weekend to Adelaide, it's a very hard task. So somebody has to give them a foot up. So I fully support state and local government supporting the project. There's a lot of people put a lot of time into it, and there's a lot of things that we don't actually understand that they provide. But there is, the mental support they give them, the trainings. It goes on and on and on, and I think it's a fantastic project. So I'm glad that we are helping it.
Thanks, Councillor Maguire. Firearms policy, that the council revoke policy 51. Can I ask someone to move that? Councillor Grundy. Councillor Dennis.
Apologies for my lateness.
And Councillor Downwood, seconded. All those in favour?
South Eastern Water Conservation Drainage Board nomination. So, as written in the report, Mayor was nominated through the LCLGA. Pointed out there was an error in who should be doing nominating. So all I'm asking for is support the nomination of Mayor Ross to the LGA.
Councillor Turner, Councillor Ireland. Any discussion? I did have to do a CV for this one. All those in favour? Carried, thank you.
And even though Mayor Ross was accepted by the board, the drainage board, to be a committee member, there's no guarantees that it'll be accepted by the LGA or the minister. So we'll have to perhaps polish his CV up, is that right? The last item is council facilities closures, suggestions there for when we go through the Christmas New Year break. We generally close down the majority of our services. It's a fairly unproductive time for staff to be present. We do have emergency staff, 24/7 call centre, so we still handle what has to be handled for various things that might come across for that period. So recommendation is for the closures as listed.
If I may ask a question, Mr. Smart, and that is around the emergency telephone number. What could we expect to be a response, a general response time if someone rang up in an emergency, for an emergency, whether it's a tree over the road or whatever, on the 24-hour number, what is the expected, or what would you expect to be a reasonable response time?
Depending on the issue, so there's a staff person allocated a phone, so you ring the council office that goes direct through that number, subject to the availability of that person, which we generally are, determine what the issue is, where it is, and the level of action that we need to take based on a risk to the public.
Okay.
That's generally it, without getting into detail, without knowing the actual issue.
Okay.
But I think we're fairly responsive in our times for those sort of things.
Key projects, item
So just after it.
yes, the moving, okay. So this is facility closures. Would someone like to move that those times and dates for a facility closure? Councillor Grundy, Councillor Dalwood. All those in favour? Carried, thank you.
And just a reminder that we've put in a save the date for a special meeting of council next Tuesday to consider at this stage the regional sports facility engagement package and car parking land. Just for information.
Councillor Grundy.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Before we conclude on item 9, I was hoping the CEO might have been able to elaborate a little bit on his meeting with the Australian Rare Earths and what might the implications be for council, and any other general comments, and also the country cabinet preparations and what that might entail.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy. I didn't meet with Australian Rare Earths, met with Department of Mines and Energy, who were in the region and new person in the role. So he just come in as an introductory meeting just to see whether we had any, as a council, overlaying concerns about process or issues. So it was more of just an introduction from the regulator, just to sit down with us. But it was about his role was looking at the Australian Rare Earths licence, exploration licence. So it wasn't with Rare Earths, it was with the State Government Department. The country cabinet, so there's been, the more formal arrangements, there's a community forum at the high school Thursday night. And then the actual country cabinet is in Bordertown on Friday. So from a council perspective, there's a number of meetings happening from tomorrow and Friday. You've been invited to one at the Sale Yards tomorrow. So there's been interest generated from not necessarily council all the time, but sometimes other parties. Daniel and myself met at the aerodrome today with some business out there, and that will then see us meet with the Minister Scriven on Thursday. So yeah, there's a number of meetings that either myself or the Mayor, Mr Willsmore, Deputy Mayor, Mr McCrosty are involved in on the various topics.
Did they get altered? Did the Sale Yards one get altered to Thursday?
It was Thursday, got altered back to Wednesday. So yeah, it was initially Thursday 11. I think it's now 2 o'clock tomorrow from memory. Unfortunately, they probably started planning meetings a week or so ago, and as per expectations, starting yesterday, today, they just continually shift, and almost until they get here. So we have to roll with that if we want the opportunity to put our case for various matters in front of government ministers.
Thank you very much. Key points, item 10, Mr Willsmore.
Thank you. Just to add to this report, since the time we're writing it, the footpath works replacement and upgrade works in Cedar Avenue footpath in front of the Narrow Court South School was completed and opened up before school went back after school holidays. The Smith Street footpath replacement stage 1 works have been opened up, returned to the public to allow us to undertake our works to stage 2. So those works are progressing. And McGarry Crescent curbing replacement, as well as the Oak Avenue curbing replacement, has begun.
Thank you, Mr Willsmore. And the swimming lake still on schedule to open on approximately?
21st of November.
21st of November, thank you.
27th of November.
27th of November, subject to change. Thank you, Mr Willsmore. Any other questions? Finance report.
Thank you, Mayor Ross.
Ms. Edmonds.
Nothing else to report as far as the report goes. Happy to take any questions. Just a couple of housekeeping matters. Elected member payments are due at the beginning of next month. If you have any travel claim forms or other claim forms, if you could please source the form from the extranet. I won't be emailing it out this time. And also last night's LGFA presentation, thanks to those who attended. A shame that others who couldn't make it along. I thought it was relatively informative and useful. Hopefully those who attended found it also too. We have put the presentation that was prepared by LGFA up on the extranet. So if you have any questions with that one, feel free to ring, email, come and see me.
Are there any questions of Ms Edmonds? I'd like to bear in mind that Alex is available to elected members at absolutely any time if you've got any questions, or in fact anyone. I'm sure if you give Josie a call or Mr Smart a call, they'll be only too happy to accommodate any questions you may have. They will be happy to accommodate any questions you may have. Thank you. Item 11. Have I missed 11? No, that was 11. Minutes and recommendation for council meetings. So the motion? At the minutes of the Regional Livestock Exchange Board, yes?
Well, I didn't foreshadow at the start of the meeting because I wasn't here, but I have a perceived conflict of interest with the third agenda item. Probably make leave of the room for that.
Okay.
And, this portion.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Would someone like to move the minutes of the regional? Thank you, Councillor Grundy. A second to Councillor Ireland. All those in favour? Carried. Would someone like to move that the financial report from the Narrow Court Regional Livestock Exchange be moved and, as noted, and is noted for referred to the Audit and Risk Committee? Councillor Grundy. Councillor Downwood. All those in favour? Carried. Councillor Dennis leaves the room. Would someone like to move that the capital expenditure budget of $127,680 for the design be withdrawn for the financial year? Councillor Grundy. Seconder, please. Councillor Ross. Second. Councillor Grundy.
I was going to just mention a bit about
Yes.
the previous meeting. Thank you, Mayor Ross. So essentially the meeting was relatively straightforward, and the administration were kind enough to have us go through and conduct a tour, which was very useful as far as keeping up to speed of where we're at from a practical perspective. And probably one of the key things that came out of it was the sheep EID matter still lacks clarity from a government funding and timing perspective, which has impacted on the NRLE expenditure plan, which is really what this item is dealing with. And further to that, we've we've got some CCTV going on there now, and it seems as though we've had a couple of matters, and Mr. Willsmore's pursuing those matters with the local constabulary, and we're very much looking forward to what the outcome of those inquiries might be.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy. Would someone, so we have the motion, discussion, all those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much.
And while we're on NRLE, just a reminder that Mr. Willsmore sent out a meeting for briefing workshop to go through the long-term financial plan, AMP, for next Wednesday, 5 o'clock next Wednesday.
Yep.
Next week. Only went out today.
What's that one? The special one? I'm foreshadowing that I'll be late next Tuesday.
Sorry, next Tuesday. Okay.
Probably 30,000 lambs next
I
week.
thought, Councillor Dennis, you were going to give us a précis of the delegations review.
No, sorry, no. Pass.
Summary. Quick summary of it. Thank you. A very quick summary. Delegations review, which has been a little while coming. Adam Henschke, our new HR and governance coordinator, done a heap of work on this to review all delegations, particularly with a number of people and position changes, and just gives opportunity to have a good look of what should be delegated, what shouldn't be. So I assume you've all had a extensive read of all the delegations, which there is a lot. So essentially nearly all things get delegated to me, and then I'll sub-delegate to the various officers. I guess all delegations to an extent come down to a matter of trust between the council and council administration. There'll be times when I have delegation on a certain matter, whatever that may be. I guess experience and knowledge over time is sometimes know when a matter may be a bit more serious. So I can still refer that to council. So just because I've got the delegation doesn't mean I use it at all on all occasions. Conversely, if council wants to deal with an issue that it has delegated, it is still able to do so. So that delegation doesn't always mean that it goes down that pathway. So generally, delegations allow us to do our day-to-day functions on a more effective basis rather than having every item for decision coming back to council, which should be significant agendas. And I think it's worked pretty well with the experience and qualifications knowledge that we've got across our staffing. So happy to take any questions on the delegations, but his recommendations there that we council approves the delegations as put.
Councillor Grundy.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Regarding the delegations, how different is this from what we've done previously as far as what we've endorsed previously? And I know it's only a subjective question and answer, I guess, but if there was, for instance, something which was a legal matter, which involved expenditure and that sort of thing, whose discretion is that at as far as it being brought before council when it could very well be of interest to councillors?
Probably a good example. So I guess there's a couple of answers in there. So the legal matter, the legality of whatever it is, we obviously undertake an assessment of potential cause and effect and the risk to council. I think as has been put in the past, there have been a couple of legal challenges that generally come before council to consider. If it comes to expenditure, I'm still only authorised to expend what's in the budget. So there are controls within that. I just can't go and say spend 50 or 60,000 on a legal case without your approval because we haven't got those funds in the budget. So all delegations are either governed by policy, budget, etc. That still give us then further direction on how to use that delegation. So we still have to operate within our procurement policy and budget.
And how does tonight? Is it tonight any different from previous endorsements?
Look, we went through our current delegations in assessing, so there are some changes, some updates, but not overly different. There's some changes in legislation. So the PDI Act will come before you in a further report, so that's not included in these delegations. So that would have been different legislation from what you had last time. And Local Government Act, there's been quite a bit of change in there as well. So there are some different delegations, but not markedly different.
Thank you, Mr. Willsmore. It is a huge body of work, and Mr. Henschke's done a pretty good job, I think, to work his way through that in his first few months of engagement.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, from us, it's overdue, so it's a good job done.
Excellent. I'd ask for someone to move that we receive the delegation's review report and other matters. Councillor Dennis. Councillor Crosling. Is there any further discussion? There being none. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. (13.2).
Review of there's an annual item that we review items that are still held in confidence or need to be carried over and retained in confidence. Won't go through item by item, but they're all there for your consideration or questions and recommendation accordingly.
Councillor Ireland.
Mr. Smart, is there actually a time frame? I mean, some of these are getting to 20 years that they've been kept in confidence. I mean, at what stage are they ever going to come out of confidence? I mean, they finished there.
So those, particularly those initial ones where they work as comp or separation packages, they'll remain in confidence. They won't come out because they're about an individual's circumstance. So they'll remain in confidence. Okay. That's an undertaking we undertake with that person when it's either separation that stays within confidence.
Right.
Yeah. So those initial items they will stay in confidence.
Yep. Thank you.
But all others, it's more of a time factor.
Any other questions? Would someone like to move? That the items pursuant of section 91(9)(a) of the Local Government Act 1999, the following confidential items have been reviewed and will remain as they are. Councillor Downwood, Councillor Dennis. All those in favour? Carried, thank you.
There's quite a few there on my contract review, so once I'm gone, you can do what you like with them. That takes out a few.
Is that be minuted?
13.3. There's your Collins. Do you have anything to add to your report?
No, I don't, Mayor Ross. So I'll just commend the annual report to you. And as mentioned in there, obviously we're still awaiting our audited financials for last financial year. They should be presented to the upcoming audit committee meeting, and then we'll go to full council for the November meeting. And we should be receiving the report from the LCLGA shortly as a result of their recent meeting.
Is this appropriate?
Yes, the financials. Yeah, subject to, so adopt it. And then, so you still have to adopt the audit financials. They can't go until you endorse those. Yep.
Okay. Would someone like to move that the council adopts the annual report, subject to the financials? Councillor Ross, Councillor Goodman. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favour? Carried, thank you. Reports for information. Anything to add, Mr. Willsmore?
Thank you. Just wanted to add that we held our Hard Waste Day in Naracoorte last Saturday. So we had over 150 vehicles use it, and which resulted in the collecting of 148 tonne of waste. So the Lucendale Hard Waste Day will be held this Saturday, and we'll be able to provide a further report next council meeting.
Thank you, Mr Wilson. Well, I note that's well advertised around, so thank you very much for that. Where are we? Planning compliance, Mr McCroskey.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Just further to add, since the report, we had our community engagement with the Lucendale community for the master plan. It was well received by our reports, and the consultants were happy with the feedback they provided. They're currently working behind the scenes to bring that together. And we also have our Francis community plan next week, set for next Monday night. So we'll hopefully get further feedback from that and bring those two master plans together reasonably quickly.
Councillor Grundy.
Regarding item 14.2, and in particular the reference to the Corellas, can't help thinking that we're kicking the can down the road a little bit on these Corellas. For a long, long time, it's been a challenge for the Narracourt residents in particular, and it seems as though we can't get any traction with getting anything happening.
Noted.
Noted, Councillor Grundy.
That's all we do.
More action.
And that's just the reason why we got on the front foot early. We spoke to DEW to try to see whether we can drive some traction there. Unfortunately, as stated there, basically do what we've done in previous years and continue to try to eradicate scouts and scare tactics and so forth, or we have applied for a permit to shoot and kill.
Councillor Darwood. Thank you, Mr McCroskey.
Mr Mayor, or through you, Mr Mayor, Mr Cross, has anybody ever tried scaring with drones? Because crockies don't like being interrupted where they are. If you were to, there's a lot of people around town that have got drones. If you're able to get amongst them with the drones, whether they might be an effective way of being able to dissuade them from roosting where they have been.
Councillor Downwood, Narracka Lucendale Council haven't tried using drones. It's something we could potentially look at if we can find someone that's enthusiastic to challenge their drone with your nest of Corellas. I guess that's the answer to that one.
Thank you, Mr McCroskey. Engagement.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Nothing further to report. It's been a busy month with community engagement, and it's a very busy month coming up with community events, which are all listed there. Paul's already provided a brief update on our community consultations. There will be more feedback coming shortly from the relevant consultants. But really interesting to see that visitor numbers for September were up significantly by 70% through our Visitor Information Centre from August, which is huge. That's a massive boost to our area. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Collins. I must admit I attended the community master plan workshop at Lucendale, and I was delighted with the presenters. I thought they were very engaging, and everyone who came away, not only did they feel good about it, obviously, that was good engagement, that those people from the community were engaged, they actually felt that it was a really valuable thing. So, that's really good that we engaged, some good people to do the work. So I'm very happy about that. Item 15, there is nothing. Item 16, questions with notice. There aren't any. I have a motion. Item 17, Councillor Grundy has provided. You'll move to that effect, Councillor Grundy. Do I have a seconder for Councillor Grundy's? Councillor Turner.
I just have a few
Councillor Maguire.
questions on it, if that's okay.
Of course, it's now been moved and seconded. Of course you have.
Can I direct them straight to you, and maybe can I ask them to you? Or sorry,
You have the floor.
I guess first one, what's council's expectations of the time required that'll take to do? Can we answer that?
From previous experience?
Yeah, Yes. Well, I don't think we've actually gone down this road before, have we?
2014.
Was it? Exact same?
As we did, so BRS did a review in 2014.
Sorry, I've probably asked the wrong question first. Depending on what the review is, would be the better question to ask. Is council clear on what they want reviewed and why? So it's a fairly broad motion. That's my first question.
Okay. Yep. Oh, very good. And
Answer that?
Yep. Councillor Grundy, do you like to expand?
Can I introduce my
Of course.
motion? Okay, so these audits are carried out elsewhere and periodically. I've cited the Northern Areas Council documentation, which is for a very similar purpose, and that is namely their review into the roadworks efficiency and plants and equipment. Now, their terms of reference seem appropriate and could be called upon for our purposes. They'd be passed on to the administration for the purposes of the expression of interest, and I'm sure that RBS and others may all want to become part of. I think it would be healthy that others became part of the process of identifying the appropriate organisation to carry out this regular audit. This entity that I've referred to is a private enterprise organisation, and it's respected throughout the industry. And an invitation for them to submit an expression of interest, I believe, would be beneficial, with the terms of reference to be confirmed.
So in fact, for you, Councillor Maguire, the terms of reference would be something that would be decided between, I would imagine, at a strategic planning. Is there something we do there, or is it?
I think the best process would be, so I guess what we initially would have done from an action out of the strat plan priority actions, which is to undertake the review, would be to bring back a draft tender spec, terms of reference, whatever, same thing, whatever you call it, for then council to debate, discuss what it wants reviewed, how it wants it reported back. Does it want to do, I mean, this is foreshadowing that we do it externally. I guess my initial question would be, do we have to do it externally? Can we do it internally? That's about your expectations. I guess probably some additional, and these will most likely go in my report, or Mr. Wilsmore's report, one of the two. So we have no budget for it at this stage, so that'd be an additional budget item. From memory, I think the 2014 one was about 23,000. So we have to, don't know. That's some time ago. Depends what you want reviewed. Depends how much time they spend in the region for that. So don't know any of those answers. Just giving you some heads up questions to come.
Councillor Grundy.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. I would suggest an expression of interest is just that, and there's not necessarily any firm commitment if the terms of reference aren't satisfactory.
Okay, it's a bit of a Councillor Maguire.
My question is, while we're moving this motion, is what is Councillor Grundy trying to? Is there a certain area that you think we need to improve on, that you want them to focus on? How big is this review going to be? And then potentially how much is this cost? Is it going to cost council? And how long is it going to take? So if you could answer one, is there something with this review that you're trying to achieve?
If I may, Councillor Maguire, it's within our strat plan, and it is for actioning in the current 23-4.
I understand that.
Yep.
I do, but it's still. I'm just asking. I've got the right to ask the question. Is there something that Councillor Grundy believes that we're not actually doing properly, or what does he actually want reviewed?
Thank you, Councillor Grundy. If you're going to respond, can you please stand?
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Look, I just believe that this was in line with our regular procedure and that sort of thing, and some of those terms of reference very much roadworks efficiency review. These are some of the terms of reference from the Northern Areas Council. Plant and equipment review, that would take into account the k's of road that's graded, how many k's are re-sheeted, re-sealed, the new seals, how many dedicated patrol graders, the staff that are utilised on those graders, how many dedicated construction workers, employees, costs, potential contractor, the ability to engage contractors potentially, fuel, oil, maintenance, depreciation, insurance, rubble materials, internal plant hire, trucks, trailers, mowers, commercial light fleet. So yeah, they're just some of the areas which would be part of a standard review, I would imagine. So yeah, no, look, I don't think that we need to become defensive about this. It's just an audit, and in any event, it may well demonstrate that we're doing a lot right. And when we get calls from ratepayers and that sort of thing, we may indeed be able to cite this document if it eventually is forthcoming and say, well, Naracoorte Lucendale Council is doing 90% of it really well.
And if I may, and yes, but if I may, and I do note in the financial report that it is interesting to note that you can actually pick up quite a bit of detail around many of the things that Councillor Grundy is looking at as far as expenditures and other, but certainly not around efficiency. I have Councillor Ross.
Do you want to respond to that?
If I can.
Well, I got Councillor Ross, but of course,
Sorry, thank
Councillor
you.
Maguire, please be upstanding.
Thank you. I guess I believe it's something we can do internally, and I have asked the question, if we were to go with what Councillor Grundy has said, that we'd probably be looking between, correct me if I'm wrong, $30,000 to $50,000. Would that be a ballpark figure?
Well, if the last time was 20 plus thousand, you'd assume it could be more, depending on the terms of reference, of course, and that included, the last one included the swimming pool, I know.
So I would push for it to be done internally. If we're paying for the expertise, we have the CEO, the Director of Infrastructure, and Corporate Service. The three of them alone, we're paying a total salary of $559,000 of expertise. If we're paying for this expertise, and that is exactly what they're giving us, and they're also giving that to the community, I believe as a council we're continually trying to police these things rather than have a strategic outlook. One would say that we're wasting the $559,000 of ratepayers' money. If I can just give you an example on that, Mayor. Mr Willsmore gave us a detailed report on what could lift our grading levels to where we wanted them and what the community's expectations were. He explained, with time restraints on whether council, and he recommended, should purchase another grader. We have complete control of the usage of that machine, and he was listening to the community and what the elected members wanted. But as a council, we asked for him to go away and do another report on purchasing versus contracting. Now, after years of experience, we had elected members of less than 1 year's term not listening to what we've been told by somebody we are paying very good money that has been in the system and the game for a long time. So my question is, if we don't have faith in our staff that are professionals in what they do, and we're going to go and spend another $30,000 worth of ratepayers' money, potentially, we constantly want reports. We're getting bogged down when solving the issue would be to actually listen to what Mr Willsmore said, look at potentially purchasing another grader, but another 12 months will go by, another report will come in, another budget will go away, and we still would not resolve the problem with the grading. I just think we do not need to be spending this money, and I find it a little bit strange that elected members can actually put a motion on notice and actually recommend to have somebody put in a bid, so they've actually done some homework. I actually think that's operational. That's in the motion. I don't believe you should have even really accepted that motion. It's not up to an elected member to actually put, we want this company to actually do the review.
It doesn't actually say there, but not limited to.
Yes, but obviously we've done, an elected member's has gone out and done some homework on this. So again, the staff, how did the staff read that? Do they think that there's no trust in what they're trying to tell us or what they're suggesting to us? I'm just confused with motions like this. I'm confused with motions that have got up without notice, one potentially costing the ratepayers 1.6 million. I believe this motion has, we haven't budgeted for it, and yet previous council, there was an item that people spoke out quite strongly against because we hadn't budgeted for it, so is there different rules for different situations?
1 minute, please.
Yeah, I know. I know that efficiencies are something that council need to look at, but we also have to have faith in what our staff are telling us. They have told us to go out and buy a new grader. We have said, no, we want another report. The community want these things. Why don't we just work with the staff, get on with things, get things done, instead of policing? Because that's all this council seems to do. We want reports.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire. I take that you were speaking against the motion.
Strongly.
Strongly. Councillor Ross.
What we're talking about here is probably more, I don't disagree with what the intent is here, but I probably disagree with the way that's probably gone about a motion with notice. What I'm talking here as the chair of the SAP, one of the things I say all the time is that if you've got ideas, you've got things you want to discuss, probably bring it through the SAP, because what you've seen tonight is probably some confusion in regards to how it's been presented and what the intent was, and probably the lack of commentary around it as well. What I'm probably talking about here more is that perhaps we should be looking at putting this through a SAP meeting first, so that it can be discussed, debated, before it comes to a consideration like this. Given that it's right, there's a financial implication here we haven't budgeted for. So I think it's been highlighted as well, is that, it was come up earlier in previous meetings about the motions without notice or motions with notice, in that it's probably not necessarily the right avenue to be putting some of these questions through, because it just doesn't give people the opportunity to be prepared enough or ask the questions that can be satisfied. That's all. So I would like to see this probably pushed through to the SAT meeting to be presented there. It's only in a couple of weeks' time. We'll give everyone the opportunity to have to do their research, and I think if it's gone through that process and it's voted to go ahead with it, well then at least it's had its opportunity to be discussed and debated properly. I don't think this forum and doing it in such a short notice like this is probably the appropriate position. That's my view.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Goodman.
I note in the correspondence that Councillor Grundy provided that this is part of our strategic plan that we've committed to, and so I'm happy that it is something that is brought forward. I know also that it's an expression of interest at this stage, and so there is no current commitments of funds, and from my understanding that is why, so that we can understand what the potential cost implication can be and choose whether or not we bring funds forward or budget for that. As the Mayor said, budgeting comes around quite quickly, so I think from that perspective this is reasonable. I don't view it as any criticism or negativity or policing of staff. I view it as something that a lot of organisations and businesses do as good practice, which is about continual improvement and review, because you can't change, adapt and improve unless you know where the issues are and what is going well and what you can do better at. So from that perspective, I'm speaking for the motion, and I think it's worthwhile.
Councillor Goodman. Councillor Turner.
Yeah, thank you. I second to the motion because a number of things. Firstly,
I'm facing a similar situation with a business myself where we've been doing things the way we've been doing it for a long time. We've had productivity reviews probably in the last decade, but not recently. We've got a lot of costs coming at us. So I see it not much different. I've got shareholders asking me now, are we productive and are we doing the best we can in terms of have we got the best equipment, have we got the best operation procedures, etc. And I've gone through this process and conceded that I think an outside person coming in would actually do a better job than the inside person giving opinions. And we've had informal conversations about one of the two of the shareholders asking some people, are we doing the best we can? And I'm saying yeah. And of course, a couple of people are saying, well, maybe there are a few things. So I think at a certain stage, if you want to eliminate opinions, so you've got internal opinions, so you've got internal staff and internal operations, they have opinions, and those opinions might be 100% or 90% correct. You have external opinions, both in the chamber and in the community, and if you want to eliminate opinions, you need to overlay them with facts and data. And the only way you can make a responsible decision is facts and data. I find it a little bit annoying that people throw up, we haven't budgeted for this. You've got, on one case, I've got a councillor saying we're spending $500,000 on people, we should be doing this internally, and yet we're talking about $30,000. And they'll burn the $30,000 themselves. So really it's irrelevant whether it's done externally or internally. And from my personal experience, if you want to paint a house yourself or get a painter, and you'll probably find the painter who does it all the time, does it a lot quicker, a lot better, a lot faster, and it's more efficient. So I think there is merit in getting an external person to do these audits. It's not a criticism, it's an opportunity to take away any conjecture that we may or may not be doing things right. We're talking about spending up to $750,000 or plus on a new grader versus spending $30,000 to say, is that the right decision? It may confirm that it is, which is great, but the $30,000 is insignificant to the expenditure of upwards of $1 million. So I can see this as an opportunity, not as a criticism, but an opportunity to get outside data and facts around the way we go about doing things, and more likely it will highlight the fact that we do things well, but it will show up where we could do things better. And I think there's nothing wrong with at a period of time in an organisation to have someone look at the productivity and just ask the question, is there a better way of doing it, and are we doing it the best way? And we can all learn from that. So I'm sort of speaking in favour of the motion reasonably strongly, because I think, one, we've agreed to do this review, and I think Councillor Grundy has suggested one of the people that maybe should be considered in terms of the process, because they have a track record, and we can actually learn from a document from a previous councillor that's been constructed. So I've got no problem with the suggestion, no problem with the administration coming up with other suggested people who could do this. I think the motion, whether we vote on it tonight or not, but I think the motion makes good sense, and it fits in with what we had agreed to at our strat plan to do a review.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Ireland.
Thanks, Mayor Ross. I'd actually like to agree with Councillor Turner and Councillor Goodman's views of an independent assessor. I think an outside view is beneficial to the council, or beneficial to all of us. Also, Councillor Grundy mentioned that we have ratepayers that are coming to us as elected members and saying, well, there's maybe not happy with the road network, and saying, are there ways it can be improved? So this is an ideal way to put their minds at rest that we're doing things the best we can, and it's very possible this would be very complementary to what we're doing with our roads. So I'm in favour of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Dennis. Councillor Dennis.
Just in relation to the motion, I haven't, historically, I've probably argued against motions of notice with very little detail. The merits of this item, otherwise, I'd like to have further discussion. I will be voting, foreshadowing that I'm speaking against the motion, and not in the context that it doesn't have relevance, but just the way it has been brought before council. I don't support this process. I support consultation, working together as a group, and then deciding. I'm not saying in future, it's in our strat plan. I think it's got merit reviewing our processes for all the arguments that have been made in the room, but I will be voting, I'll be foreshadowing, I'm speaking against the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Grundy, would you like to close?
Look, again, it's sound business practice, and we do it within council anyway, and that is to audit. We audit what the council does with a third party, otherwise we'd be marking our own homework. As far as there's argument constantly about operational and that sort of thing. Can I just refer to section 59 of the Local Government Act, and in particular subsections 5, 6 and 7, and it goes on to say that councillors are to participate in deliberations and activities of the council, to keep the council's objectives and policies under review to ensure that they are appropriate and effective, and to keep council's resource allocation, expenditure and activities and efficiency and effectiveness of its service delivery under review. So, and number 10 goes on to serve the overall public interest. So, although the topic of operations is not directly related to this, I'd like for someone to point out where it says in the Act that some things are operational and some things are not.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy.
Could I did open
No,
up to the
Councillor Maguire, you've had your opportunity. Thank you. The meeting has been closed by Councillor Grundy. I'll ask for all those in favour to raise their hands. I have 6. The motion is carried. Questions without notice? There are none. No, there are not questions. There aren't any questions without notice. And there aren't any motions without notice because matters the CEO recommends for considered in confidence. And we'll just take a little moment while we go offline. Thank you. There are some. So I will ask the meeting to leave. Thank you very much for your attendance.